All right, hands up if you eat meat. Maybe you love a nice juicy steak. Maybe you even snuck over to a Porto's before you came here tonight. And now, put your hands up again if you care for the environment. Maybe you do your bit by riding your bicycle to work. Or maybe you have some of those energy-saving light bulbs. Now, for those of us who had our hands up, eating meat and wanting to do something for the environment don't really go well together. In fact, they're probably one of the worst pairs ever. But that leads us to a really important question. What can one person do to have an impact upon our big planet? The problems of environmental sustainability and climate change and greenhouse gas emissions are really big problems. So what on earth can one person do? If you had the opportunity to reduce your carbon emissions by the equivalent of a 100-kilometre flight each week, would you do it? Greenpeace says that if you reduce your meat intake by a kilo each week, you could have that impact upon our planet. Now, I'm not, as Paul Keating would say, a sandal-wearing tree hugger, and I'm also not a vegetarian, but that stat really got me thinking about the impact of meat upon our planet and what I could do about it. So I decided to do a little bit of research, and that research started with this guy right here and all of his friends. And I found that meat production actually causes more greenhouse gas emissions each year than all the transport in the world, according to the United Nations. Now that's all the cars, buses, planes and trucks. Not only that, he requires 8 kilograms of grain to create just 1 kilogram of meat. Now that might last you a week or maybe just a day if you really love your protein. And not only that, but 800 million people in our world are currently suffering from hunger or malnutrition. So imagine for just one moment, if you could take some of those 8 kilograms of grain that are used to feed that cow to give you 1 kilogram of meat, and instead use that 8 kilogram of grain to feed some of those people who are suffering from hunger and malnutrition. But at the end of the day, I'm Gen Y, so it's really all about me and what Meat Free Mondays can do for me. And it was at the moment when I was in the supermarket about to pay $30 for 4 tiny lamb cutlets that it really hit home for me, because Mum and Dad aren't footing the grocery bill anymore. But all these problems that I researched didn't make me feel empowered in any way. I just felt the weight of the problem even more. And so all of those issues ended up in that too hard basket over in the corner, and I didn't actually do anything about it. Until, of course, I discovered a concept called Meat Free Mondays. Now, the idea of Meat Free Mondays is that if everyone makes one small change by going meat-free or vegetarian 1 day a week on a Monday, the cumulative impact of those changes will have a really positive impact upon our environment. Now, it started in the United States as a way to try and get Americans to lose weight, but it's since been backed by Paul and Stella McCartney, Gwyneth Paltrow, if that means anything to you, and that's really helped it gain worldwide momentum. Certainly, I found out about it about 2 years ago now, when I was what I call a wannabe greenie. So I was wanting to do something for the environment, but not really sure what I could do or how I could influence my lifestyle. Basically, I loved putting my towels in the clothes dryer so they were soft and fluffy and didn't want to give that up. But when I discovered Meat Free Mondays will let me have my soft, fluffy towels, but also help me make a difference to the environment, I jumped right on board with my falafel wraps, my vegetarian risottos, my Mexican beans, and I was becoming a great part-time vegetarian. Until a couple of months ago, I found myself in a Japanese restaurant on a Meat Free Monday, and I ordered sushi. Even though I'm from the Meat Free Monday school of thought that says fish is not allowed on a Meat Free Monday. But I'd ordered the sushi, so I decided to eat it anyway. Later that night, I had a dream that I was throwing broken glass into a small fish pond and killing poor Nemo's cousins. It was at that moment that I realised Meat Free Mondays had had a huge impact on me. And that made me wonder, what would happen if everybody on the planet or even in this room decided to make that small change? It would be one small meal for us each week, but one huge impact upon our environment. So I'm not asking you to make a big change. I'm simply asking you to swap your steak for a falafel 1 day a week to try and reduce your carbon emissions by the equivalent of a 100-kilometre flight every single week. Because if everyone in this room was to make that change, we could all reduce carbon emissions by the equivalent of 65 round-the-world flights. That's 65 round-the-world flights. And that's not to mention the benefits that it would have on problems like famine, hunger, and our back pocket, of course, as well. But at the end of the day, I'm just a girl standing in front of a room asking them to make one small change that will have one really big difference upon our planet.